Hello wonderful people, and welcome back to my channel. So a couple years ago I found this panel. It's 100% cotton of these different Santas, and they were letter themed or mail postal themed, and I thought it would be really cute to use those in a quilt someday. So I picked my 12th favorite of the 15 and decided to use this as my Crazy Quilt Journal Project, which is when you do a block a month, and at the end of the year you have 12 blocks in a whole quilt. So this was my journal project for 2018, and I just love the old world Santas. I thought they were a ton of fun, and I did all the beaded components in it, like that one right there on the doily. I made that, and I just love his hat with the sequins and that kind of thing. There were 2 earrings on this particular block that belonged to my mother. This block, I probably get the most conversation about the button cluster there in the bottom right hand corner. That piece of trim on the bottom is ancient, and I also tried to put a little bit of blue in a couple of the boxes, or in a couple of the blocks, sorry. That's the button cluster I get all the conversation about. I made the beaded leaves, and I also made the yo-yos, and then that was a charm right there. And that's just some embroidery with some more sequins. And can I just say, it's really difficult to find sequins in the store that is actually cute. I end up having to order most of it. There's another picture of the button cluster. So like I said, I made the yo-yos. There are some antique buttons in there, some plastic buttons, the beaded leaves, which is done with a peyote stitch, and there's some metallic pieces in there as well. And then I embroidered that Christmas tree there on the left, and I love that little shaggy green stuff at the bottom. It just came in a kit I bought one time at a retreat, and it's just, I just love anything shaggy. That little piece of song sheet music, I just fussy cut it out of another piece of cotton and put some rickrack around it. And crazy quilters love rickrack. I had somebody ask me one time if I could use rickrack on a crazy quilt, and I said, well, of course you can. You can use anything you want. So I made that beaded component there on that old doily with super duos. I also embroidered Santa's beard and hat and stuff like that any chance that I got, just to give it a little more dimension. And there's some eyelash trim, which I adore. Everybody knows that. Those 4 buttons are antiques. I got those at a button show. And there's a little bit better view of the beaded component that I made. And those are not hard to do, especially with the super duos. You're basically just going in a circle. So, and I love this block. I do love this Santa. I also embroidered his beard as well. And there's some of that eyelash trim on the right. And I think that's a mother of pearl button down there on the left with some more rickrack. And that was just, I just cut, the piece out of cotton, fussy cut it. And I think that's an earring in the center. And then did a buttonhole stitch around it. I had a lot of fun with buttonhole stitch in general, because I love to do handwork, but it really just kind of adds, I don't know, like a little homespun feel to it. There's some more. I beaded one of the circles and then embroidered the other one, and then in the middle is a yo-yo. And yeah, and there's the button cluster for this block. That green Believe button there I've had for, gosh, since the 80s at least. And that Christmas tree down there at the bottom was also one of my mother's earrings. And so it's kind of neat using some of that stuff. Some of the earrings, they're either broken or they're just, one is lost or whatever, and I'll never wear them, so I thought it was perfect. So that Dear Santa, I Can Explain letter right there, that was actually earrings that I got at Hobby Lobby, and I just cut it off and put it in there because I thought it was perfect for this particular quilt. And again, there's more buttonhole stitch. So the doily on this block, the bottom left-hand corner, was actually made by my grandmother like back in like 1970. And it was a set of 3, and I put one on another crazy quilt that I did, and then put this one on here, and I have one more left. So that was fussy cutted. And the bells there in the center is one of my mom's earrings. And then there's some more antique buttons. And then the angel pin in the center came from my mother-in-law like years ago, like back in the 90s. And I love that striped fabric. And then I embroidered that. The striped fabric is really very Edwardian, I think. It just, I don't know what it is, but I really love this block. There's a lot going on in this block. And the doily down in the left-hand corner, I painted with alcohol inks, which is really fun. Because then you get to kind of decide, like, you know, what colors you want to go wear. And that's some snowflake sequins that I had and some charms. A little bit more blue in there. There's another one of those Believe buttons. Since literally I've had them since the 80s. So, you know, I don't feel guilty about collecting stuff for my craft because I know eventually it's going to get used. It might take 20 years, but it does almost always eventually get used. Usually. So, yeah, he was a cute Santa. This one was. It's a little bit of blue on this block too because his eyes were so blue. So the fabrics in this quilt were all just left over from different Christmas quilts that I had made in the past. So I actually colored that piece of trim there with the pearls on it. I did that by hand as well. And then I made that beaded piece, that 6-pointed star. I did that with peyote stitch. And some more eyelash trim. And I love this old world Santa. He's very serious, but I loved him. And so there's a beaded component up there in the left top hand corner. I made that. I made the yo-yos. And there's some more of those Believe buttons. I was really excited to get to use those. You know, it's not every day you get to use something you've had in your stash for 35 years. And some really cute sequins that I got from a friend of mine at a retreat, because you certainly can't find those in the store. This block was really interesting, and the trim down at the bottom, it looks like gifts. They look like they're wrapped up gifts. That is probably 80, 90 years old, maybe even older. And that I made the yo-yo, and then the centerpiece is a pin that belonged to my grandmother. And then there's that button cluster with some leaves on. There's some bead leaves in there. So anyway, that's the quilt, and it was just a ton of fun to make. It was also a challenge to have to keep reusing the same colors over and over and over. Red, green, black, and some gold. So anyway, it's all finished and I'm very happy with it. And I decided to do a lattice in between the blocks to kind of break it up so it wasn't too busy, so you have a place for your eye to land. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and please like and subscribe. Thank you.